Good evening and welcome to Tuesday's Encounters from New York. This program is presented every Tuesday at 9 p.m. New York time. My name is Mark Beecher and I'll be your host tonight. Our very special guest tonight is Miss Aura Camacho-Maas. Aura is an activist, teacher, inspirational speaker, and author of the book Uprooting Fear, The Heart's Accidental Journey to the Divine. Tonight's topic to be discussed is the power of spirituality in action. So welcome, Aura, and please sign in and tell us a little about yourself.
Hello.
Yes, hello, Aura. How are you?
Hi, Mark.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Okay. So can you just begin tell us a little about the topic you want to discuss tonight?
Yes, I would like to, first of all, invite, yeah. Yeah. Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
A little bit technical little issues here. Thank you for your introduction, Mark. That's very kind. Thank you for the invitation to Ernie, and thank you to everyone that confabulated, collaborated, even unknowingly to come together tonight. Clemencia, thank you very much for telling Ernie about me. I appreciate it. Before I begin the conversation on the power of spirituality, I would like to invite all the present people and everybody that is not there, but we are all here as a spirit, to just take a second and tune in into 4 little ring bells that I will do. And as you breathe in and breathe out, again, I will go with the little bell. Here we go. Okay, thank you again for being here. To begin the conversation, I had to go for myself into, into the definition of what spirit is. we talk about spirituality. It's very common, sometimes not even look at it in a positive light. And yet, as I went and looked at the root of the word spirit, what is the meaning of spirit? And I found three definitions: wind, breath, and vital force. Of course, this defines everything. I mean, without breathing, we don't exist. Without air, we don't exist. So the vital force is the combination of those things, and we are it. That is spirit. It's everything and anything. So, but what happens when we come into this world? The human experience. I mean, to begin with, the moment that we come out, what is the experience if not one of shock? And that theme continues on, and we experience dissonance. We know that there is something that is above, high above anything that we see and perceive, and yet we also experience the realities of what we call the real world. That puts us in a state of dissonance. I will tell you about how I have learned about this place of dissonance. It happened when I was about 5 years old, and I come home to say hello to my parents. I cannot find them. Finally end up going into their bedroom. The door is closed. I open it up, and I encountered my mom was on the floor, and my father was with one knee over her body, and with the other hand, with the hand pointing again to her head. That is how I encountered fear. But I was so lucky that there was another time we moved on. I am about 12 years old. Before, we were living in the city, in Bogota, where I am from, Colombia. And we have moved, my parents have taken me with them to live in a farm, the countryside. And I am so lucky that after all I carry that fear from the initial experience that I just shared with me. And it was enhanced by a lot more of violence and disruption and chaos, emotional, just emotional confusion, I could not go anywhere to find any answers. And I have seen the beginning of the dissolution of my family, my 3 older brothers, beginning to leave home due to the violence of my father. Anyway, so we come to this farm, and one night, it's a small little house. One night, I am waken up by this sensation in my body. And I hear that my parents are having a similar sensation. When there was no electricity, so we turn up a candle. To a candlelight, we see millions of ants that are passing through somewhere. It's like an army of ants. And they are just moving through. They are not biting. They're not interested in anything. but just going through, obviously to some, the finest space that nobody knew. I was astonished. And then I was in awe. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I began really looking at them. We had a lot of time because it took quite a few hours for this army of ants to cross through. And so I saw how if one ant found an obstacle, there was always another ant or some other ants that will come and help it move through the obstacle. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is harmony. Look, there is no fighting, there is no anger. They are just helping each other. They are, united. And so I knew about harmony. So as I, went through this experience about the ants, then I realized that what I have felt, going through my body, what woke me up was this energy. The energy I saw, moving them. It was the same energy that I felt throughout my body. So as we all know, energy is not created and it's not destroyed. This energy is always going either in waves or in particles, some place, but it is a closed circle. Energy is not destroyed. Move on. Eventually, one day, almost 3 decades of living in the world of my parents, in the dysfunction and the pain of living with them. And really, I never questioned living, even though I saw my older brothers of living the house. I really never, that thought never crossed my mind. But one day I was ready. And unfortunately, I was wanted to live with the harmony. I kept thinking in this harmony. I wanted to go with the harmony, not with the fear. And unfortunately, in this whole circumstance about me leaving my parents' home meant that I saw that gun again. And this time, the gun was pointed at a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, that my father was demanding that he marry me. Never mind about that story around that. But the main point was that there was the gun again. But I wanted to leave my parents' home in harmony. That never happened. But I left because I was ready. No guilt, no regrets. I was ready for my next phase, whatever that was. I'm sure that a lot of you can relate to that feeling when, you are ready for something else. You don't know what that is, but you are ready. And so I allowed myself that benefit from spirit. And so I went out even of the country to Ecuador, where I met two great loves. My husband, who is still my husband today. We're talking about now, 40 plus years. And I also saw for the first time the Native American people. Not that they were not present in Colombia, they were, but I just never saw them. In Ecuador, they were right there. And I felt an affection, and I felt a connection. Anyway, move on. We come to my husband is originally from the United States. We come to the US to live here. And I encountered the place of, I was dumbfounded by the discordance that I saw. I knew back from living in South America about class issues. But when I came to this country, these were race issues. That was the main focus. That they were all over the place. I put the two of them together, and I thought, there is a lot more in common that we have about what is different. And I want to do something about this. Process this for several years. One day, I have already begun becoming a social activist, and I am participating with a whole big group of people. So I am participating in an international festival dedicated to the Native American people of the United States. And I see the group of Native Americans being mistreated terribly for what the content of the event was. I was dumbfounded. I was disheartened. And at that moment, I like the previous moments, when I left my parents' home, at that moment I knew I am going to do something about this. And I became an activist to do something to change the world. That world of not seeing each other, not respecting each other, not honoring each other. So I went to that place of becoming the social activist. I founded a nonprofit agency called the Latin American Resource Center. I was involved in this intense, passionate, incredibly wonderful, and incredibly difficult work for 3 years. Time during which I got into the inner parts of the education system. And towards the end of 3 decades, I have come to a conclusion that the adult world is a world in dysfunction. That there is something that even when things are beautiful and we're experiencing them as beautiful, if there is any fear at any moment, if there is any discordance at any moment, we go into fear. And at that moment, we just do away with all the goodness that a social activist, we do. And so I decided I became curious. So if this is happening in the adult world, what is happening in the world of the children? So I went and worked on I created an international dialogue among children 8 to 12 years old. And they did drawings, and about 800 drawings. So we began kind of going into the heart of the matter. What is this, the subject matter between all of these drawings? What is it that comes, afloat? And so the children ended up telling that the adult world is full of fear. And when I heard that word fear, I went into a place of, my gosh, the children express this, the adult world is full of fear. But they said it with such hopelessness. They were already just totally, in rendition of that reality. And that, when I heard the words, it was like a knife went through my heart. And I had been, when I was working with the adults, realizing what the level of dysfunction there, I was sensing my work is done. And when I heard the children say, what they said, I went into fear for humanity. I realized, my gosh, where else do I go? I had explored with my 3 decades of work, wonderful, you know, just I was being illuminated every time to know what the next step was. My programs were awarded. President Clinton named one of my programs one of the best programs in the nation, to bring the diversity, inclusion, and the integral education process. As again, the program was one of the best programs in the nation. But that was not what mattered to me. I had forgotten that my original inquiry was about the relationship between fear and harmony. So at this point, I don't know where else to go. And that is very painful. I lose my passion. My creativity is gone and my heart is aching. So I become, I am suffocated. And from suffocation, not being able to breathe, I go into hopelessness, just like the children. I think that you may relate to some of what we hear today about the world that we're living in, this world of chaos, where everything is kind of upside down. Some people call it the dark night of the soul. And yes, it is the dark night of the soul. My experience tells me, though, that there is also a dark night of the spirit. And if we go, maybe you can go and visit San Juan de la Cruz's little book called The Dark Night of the Soul. He talks, there is a second step to that there's the dark night of the spirit. Anyway, a little bit more about that later on. But right now, I am in that place of despair. And it takes me, this is all long-term things happening. Nothing is from one day to the next. I'm talking about years in this process. It comes to a moment where I just surrender. And I ask Spirit, show me the truth. It does not matter how painful it might be. Just please tell me. I am writing this to Spirit. Somebody out there, please. I'm writing this now every night before I go to bed. I am asking this question with my whole being is asking this question, not my mind. And I get an initial response. And that initial response comes through a vision. And that vision is I am contemplating this bowl. This bowl I acquired in my first trip in the United States to the New Mexico, to the pueblos, northern New Mexico. Anyway, in my vision, and I call it a vision because again, is this bowl, and I have it on my hands, and I am admiring it, and I am admiring it, and I am just focused looking at it, and it begins to rotate in my hands. It begins to rotate, and it increases the rotation and increases the rotation. And it comes to the point when it explodes. And as it explodes, I begin seeing that in each evolution, as it's going around and around, I see civilizations, Roman civilization, and all of its splendor, and then crumbling down. Egyptian, and all of its splendor, all down. Next, going around. again, it goes around and around like that. And again, it finally explodes. And as it explodes, I become the ball. And as I become the ball, I go straight, in a straight direction. And I begin devising over there, a temple with columns. And I am getting closer. And as I'm getting closer, I begin seeing that there is a human body sculpture, and I'm getting closer and closer. And I see that it is a woman, and this woman is ancient, long, beautiful, flowing hair, but she is stern. She is angry. And I am like, oh my gosh, and I am about to hit her, this force is, taking me. And I cannot stop it. And as I am getting close, I see that the woman, there is a heart that is, right on her chest. And I see that I have a heart on my hand. And this heart, I realize, oh my gosh, I can put this heart onto her heart. That's how I can prevent, hitting her. And as I do put my heart onto her heart, this angry, beautiful woman becomes absolutely magnificent. And out of her mouth comes the words, all is well when the content of the heart is considered. Oh, that leaves me like, okay, nothing, this is a simple sentence, but it will never come out of my mind. I didn't have that kind of perspective. Well, I take it like it's a beautiful dream. I have never had anything like that before. Okay, leave it like that. A year later, and to the day, a year later, my husband is traveling, I am sleeping soundly, and in the middle of the night, there is a second, I call this revelations. The second revelation is just a voice, a thunderous voice, masculine, saying, how long are you willing to see things only half through and remain in darkness? And just like with that power. And of course, I wake up and I am like, oh my gosh, darkness? Seeing things only half through? What is this? Completely, again, I have never, this could not come out of, I knew it could not come out of my mind. There was no way that I could put such a specific, telling sentence that I could not understand, coming from my mind. I go, then enter into, so my life phase one in Colombia, phase two, an activist in the United States, phase three, enter the dark night of the soul. Then phase four, I move on to seeking understanding now about these two visions, what I call revelations, the one about the heart and the one about seeing things half through. And this period takes me another decade. And it's a decade in which I encounter the things that we call more real than real, which I know we all have experienced them, but understanding that I really didn't want to trust what I had experienced in terms of the revelations. I went into here and things began flowing. Now, seeing the other half, I was seeing only half through, thinking about reality in the world where I was a social activist because I care about humanity. Now I had entered the world of spirit. And so my first encounter, out of the blue, I happened to wanted to go to the pyramids in Mexico. And I am walking between the pyramids, and I see a person coming in my direction. And I am curious, what is this person coming? It's a woman. And when I see this woman, she comes almost and stands in front of me. And she looks at me, I look at her, and her body begins melting onto my body. Of course, I went into fear, tremendous fear. The person embraces me. This was a workshop with Don Miguel Ruiz. He comes and embraces me, the person that wrote the 4 agreements. They both embrace me. And the woman quietly tells me to my ear, she says, remember that I have come to you only because you are ready. I know you are ready. What is she talking about? I could not ask her. The conditions were not that I could ask her, what do you mean? Because we were going to meet with a group of people. I was not the only one there with them. That I left it there, interesting. Then I begin writing a book. I believe still the activist, I believe that I need to write. I need to write about what I learned. I need to write about the beautiful program that came out that perhaps can be helpful to others. And I begin writing. In the process of writing, I go a place where I encountered the integral theory of Ken Wilber, philosopher, and because I think that maybe they will help me put my book together, because it's about producing, something definite, right? Here, from here to here. And nothing of the sorts happens. But in the process, I learned that my intuition is already telling me, has already guided me to do all the work that I did, intuitively, all my education work. And so sorry. But I encountered the combinations, the encounter between intuition and reason. There are 2 different ways of seeing this. One is also can be called the feminine, and the other one the masculine. One can be called the world of the reason, masculine, the world of doing, intuition, feminine, the world of being, all of these things. And I'm dealing with all of these things. I go into a shamanistic experiences. I mean, full 2 years of working in shamanism, and in there, I happen to have a situation where I have never taken any medicine plants, but I did at this time. I had first a San Pedro experience. It's a plant, it's a cacti, and I learned that it's a cacti that addresses its property or properties address the masculine of nature, masculinity in nature. And so in my first experience, I am I got into a trance, an 8-hour long trance, where I experienced the creation of life, where I am one with the elements: wind, earth, air, fire. I am part of the process of these elements meeting and the chaos of creation, and then the harmony of creation. Because at the end of the waves of these elements meeting each other, there is I am crying from the womb, from the universe. Every time that there is a wave of this huge energy, wind, fire, on and on and on and on for 8 hours. And at the end of those 8 hours, I find myself in a place of sublimity, ecstasis. And so that is the life process that I was able to, the Spirit allowed me as an instrument to have the experience of. I continue working the inner being by visiting and becoming friend of the unknown. And in that unknown, I learned many, many different skills. I learned how to eat well. I learned Reiki, so I know I learn about handling energy. I learn about contemplation. I learn about meditation. I learn that life is a meditation in itself. I learn about that life, all forms of life are sacred. And I learned this in the midst of nature, where I see how nature, the doing of the human experience is impacting it and not allowing it to do its cycles the way it knows, accelerating its cycles, and therefore creating more of the chaos that we are all experiencing. I learned that in the jungle, in the Amazon, in the middle of the Amazon, I learned that life, that God lives within. As a child, I was looking for God someplace. I went to church. I went many places looking for God. Could never find it, could never feel it. I found it in the middle of the jungle, working with the Chipibo and the Quero communities there in Peru. So again, this is 10 years of working. In the first experience where I had the peyote experience, after going through that whole 8 hours, the next day I am walking, taking my daily walk, and I find myself slowing down. Again, not me. I was not slowing down. Something was slowing this body and this mind that I see as aura. And and I was out there in the middle, and it was winter in Chicago, and I at one point could not move one eyelash. There was nothing I could do, but I was totally aware in an incredible higher way than ever before. Within this were usually that walk takes me about 45 minutes, an hour. This time it took hours, I would say 2 hours or more, until I was able to begin taking one step, the next, the next, the next. In the meanwhile, I had observed the beauty of this wonderful creation that is life. I had seen people working their little dogs, having fun, They hopefully nobody asked me, what was happening with me. Maybe I had disappeared for everybody, but they were totally, there for me. And I was seeing them in the context of all the beauty and the divinity of this world. During that experience, I learned that there is a secret in space, that nobody, nothing, no one can touch. Time has gone by, and 10 years later, from those two first revelations, there is a third revelation that happens also in Chicago after a social interaction where a dear friend got really angry with me. And it would have been one of those times when perhaps I could have gone into the place of judging me or her or any of those things, but I just didn't, because I had already learned about the oneness of it all. And so I didn't go into any of those places. I just allowed for the space to be what it was. She was angry at me. And I honored, her being in that space. And I left the room where all interaction had happened. It was very strong interaction. Anyway, not interaction, but she had, been very, very angry. And I had responded again in peace. I was going downstairs from the second floor to the first floor when I hear that voice, that inner voice saying, love is the residual of the process of the one, which I already understood. This is all about dealing with the duality that we all, we think me and them, it, that me and them. There's a duality of it, which is only in the mind, only in and of the mind. And then again, a year later, there comes another revelation. And this time, the revelation is a second visionary dream. It's a dream where I am around a lot of people. And it seems like they want something out of me. They're asking something. And I like, what do they want? Somehow I think I need to go and get this necklace, which is also an object that I acquired at the same time that I acquired the vase that I usually share with you. And it was the source of the first revelation. In this revelation, I decided that I need to go and look and find this necklace, because it will tell me what this whole situation is all about. Okay. And to find the necklace, I have placed it someplace safe, and I have to go into a basement. And I go to the basement, and it's dark in there. And as I am walking in there, I then see this figure in the darkness. This figure, humongous figure, appears. It's a man. And I get what? Afraid. I go into a place of fear. But this time I say, oh, the man is going to attack me. There's no question. He's attacking me ferociously. And so I grab, so with one hand, I look kind of for the necklace and I find it. And so as I find the necklace, with the other hand, I search and I find a dagger. And when I look back at this man, to defend myself, and now I am armed, spiritually with my necklace and physically, with this dagger. The man has become a ferocious wolf and is about to, just jump onto my body. And I take that dagger and I put it into the throat of the wolf, and it dies. Whew. I leave that space with my necklace, and I find myself in front of a body of water, like the ocean. And I see a jaguar, something coming in my direction. And I see this animal, and it gets closer and closer, and I see it's a jaguar. This jaguar, I say, oh my gosh, he's going to come and attack me. But no, I have my necklace in my lip, with me. And as the jaguar comes, he's not going to attack me. He just comes and lays his head on my lap. And when that happens, I look at the necklace, and out of the center of this piece here, out of here, a scroll comes out, and the scroll says, it reads, the time has come for everyone to be, with emphasis, to be divine. Ooh, okay, I have to breathe in, and I understand this now. I mean, there is no question. I understand what this all means because I have been part of, I have known about the divine. I can touch it. It touches me. I don't touch it. It is me. It touches me. And so from there, I have to go back and revisit my book. I have been 10 years writing this book. I cannot find the end to my book. So I have to think, what is the issue here? I have to go to Spain. It takes me, the source, the vital force takes me to Spain through a pilgrimage, through the places where San Juan de la Cruz, the author of the Dark Night of the Soul, lived, was born, lived, and died. The night before I am leaving that part of Spain, Andalusia, to come back to the United States, a voice tells me, you need to write in Spanish. Of course, it makes total sense. It had never crossed my mind, none whatsoever. I had been writing in English all the time. The rationale was doing what it was doing. But it makes sense. I come home and I begin writing. And what happens? All my root pain from this life, from my childhood, just pours out. It's a long process where I go through all the sorrows of my parents, the parents of my parents, my brothers, my life, all of that is just all out. And as I am able to honor all of that experience, then I am at peace and my book is finished. And so I have to go to the place where energy is what moves us. Energy is that spiral, moving the vital elements. And that energy, I understood it. At some point, I saw the word emotion. And what does emotion mean? If you break the word emotion, you see E equals energy. Motion equals movement. So everything is energy, emotion. All our emotions are energy. And when we have not consciously gone to the place of the heart, the place of the heart in this lifetime, whatever we might have there that we were not able to process, perhaps at the time, like it was my case. All of that energy is stuck, in the heart, which is the engine that moves the energy through our body, mind, and who we are, our essence. It does not, so it moves through the body and mind, and it does not allow our essence to come through. We are, this is what I have learned, and my book, Uprooting Fear, The Harsh Accidental Journey to the Divine, is all about what I have been telling you, of course, a lot more in a lot more detail. But I have learned through my almost more than 7 decades in this experience, in this life experience, I have learned that we are instruments and essence of spirit. There's nothing else outside of that. We are facing the dark night of the soul as a collective because we are in the process of understanding this, and I appreciate so much anyone that has given attention and has come tonight, and anyone that will come to see this presentation, this talk, anytime, anywhere that it finds you. Because we are dealing with our essence. We are dealing with handling this instrument that we call the I. The I is all of us. And in that spirit is that I came to you tonight. Not me, again, the spirit that passes through me. Now I open this to any questions, any comments, whatever you may want to offer.
Well, Aura, it's a story that you tell beautifully, and I was thinking at the time that it's similar to the great mystics that have received the spirit throughout our history. I'm talking about the great mystics, Jesus and Muhammad, and the great religious and spiritual leaders of our world.
Yes.
But once I guess you had that need And once you open that communication to the spiritual world, the revelations were not, they were clear, right? You didn't have to question, what are they asking me? What are they telling me? Those revelations were really crystal clear to you. Is that true?
The first two revelations were not. They sent me through the next part of the journey, trying to understand what they meant. Because the mind, intuitively, I knew that they happened, that they were special. They were something, it was not me, it was not aura. But, the mind does not want to accept that. The mind is too involved with the I, so it doubts anything that comes from the intuitive process. So only when I saw 10 years later, when I had the other two visions, then I already had processed so much, had been able to be that instrument and that essence. I had been able to feel it. Then I knew exactly that this was all in correlation. Absolutely. And not only that, but I had been given, as an instrument, I had to have this bowl. As an instrument, I had to have this necklace. They are objects, but they are just they are as much as an instrument as I am, as we all are of spirit. And what this is a complete mystical experience, and that does not make me a special person. It is a mystical experience, and that's what counts. It's a mystical experience in the sense that the mystics explain a complete, a mystical experience. Everything correlates. There is a harmony between the two first visions and the two last visions. There's no questioning about anything in that if you hear the story around it. So it's a mystical experience. And I believe that we are all working aspects. We are all mystics. We are afraid. I was afraid. Actually, this is, I think, the first time that in public I'm saying, I am a mystic. But not because I am a mystic. It's because it is a mystic. It's because life is a mystical process. That life that is, and the mind is a beautiful tool. And all that we have created with the mind, including these technologies here that we have created, that look, we can see each other now across the globe. Yeah, but let's not stay there. Let's go to the essence of what we are seeing now of each other. We are seeing the oneness that we all are. And that is the beauty of the mind, which we have to honor. But the mind has to give the space, just be the instrument so that we can move from doing in the world to change the world and become who we are, to be instruments and essence of spirit. Allow for that. That's what this technology and the good light is to give us. But we only can make that happen. It is us that should not be so busy with all the social media and all the artificial intelligence and blah, 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 blah. All of that is beautiful as an instrument, but it's not the essence. The essence is represented in the power of the spirit that gives us the creativity, the inspiration to do more, to be, not to do, to be who we are. Anybody with any questions?
Well, as the revelations, I guess, gave you some challenges, it became some questions within you. They said, okay, that's a challenge to me. Did that become all consuming, or was that just something that you had to incorporate into your daily life?
Every facet that I have shared, including my childhood, becoming an activist, going into the dark night, going to then experiencing all of this mystical process. Each one of those has been a total consumption of this being. Nothing has been bits and pieces of me, this and then me over there. My husband, we lived in the last part of his working life in Brazil. And when he retired in 2012, I was already in the midst of all, right, in the midst of the dark night of the soul. And we decided when we were coming back to the US that we will visit the national parks of the United States. And we have visited like 58 national parks. And a lot of my experiences that I shared in the book, I only have the experience with medicine that I related to you, that had, that vision of the creation of the world, that was under the influence of the San Pedro cactus. I also had an experience with ayahuasca. And that is the feminine, is the plant of the feminine, properties of the feminine. All of those experiences traveling through the national parks without any plant medicine, I have had the most incredible experiences passing through this body. So no, I will tell you that every bit of these aspects that I have shared, every bit of my life has taken all that is here. I have not been able to be at any other place. When I was doing my education work for 3 decades, all of me, every body, mind, and soul was there, totally. So that's what I know of my experience of life. That's a very nice question. Thank you, Mark.
Now there's.
I wondered if you could say a little more about about being a friend of the unknown, and sort of the practical application of that for the rest of us.
Friend of unknown. Well, we have to remember that really everything is the unknown. If we take it from the experience that we are this separate being here, aura and the world. Yes, that world out there is the unknown. If we allow to be the instrument of spirit and the essence of spirit, there is no unknown, because that essence is energy. Energy is not created. Energy is what it is. And all of us and everything around us is energy. And in that, there is that energy is also an intelligence, a superior, the higher, what we call the higher self, what we call God. I am honoring the religions. I am not speaking in religious terms. when I speak of God. To me, God is this essence, this being that is everything, anything, anywhere, eternally. And so in that place, there is wisdom. And if we go to a place of quiet, which nature gives us, only nature can give us that power. Nothing else will. And it's a power where it informs you. It does not come through books. It does not come through even me talking, right now. It comes only by your opening up and becoming and allowing essence and the energy to be fluid. And as these revelations come, they just calm down. When, one last thing in my presentation is that we come with learning that I have dealt with lately, much lately, like one day, a year ago, even 6 months ago, where I see that responsibility, if you go to the root of the word, responsibility is response plus ability. Yeah. So if you see that, our main responsibility is to activate the fluidity of this instrument to be essence. And in that sense, we are doing everything that we, whatever our interests are, in this world, but that they come from that fluid space. And if they do, there is no us and them. And that is about the best and most helpful way to change the world, which is not about changing the world. The world does not, we have heard this many, many, many times. The world does not need change. We need to change. And what we need to change is how we see ourselves. What we need to change is just to honor ourselves. And again, a place of quiet every day, eating well, eliminating sugar. I know about that. I was highly depressed early in my life, very early in my life. I gave up sugar as a daily, part of my intake, food intake. The depressions, the level and the kind of depressions really disappear. Of course, physical exercise. Of course, walking in nature. Of course, resting well. Giving ourselves and making that the essence. Because if we make it the essence, then if it is important, it becomes important. And we don't have to or try to make the time, to just be in a place of quiet. And the more we do whatever techniques, in that regard, Reiki, learning Reiki, my gosh, we all should be masters in Reiki because we are handling energy and energy is coming to us and, from many, many, many individuals, people like us that have not gone to the place of dealing with their emotions. And all that weight, we carry all that weight, every one of us. And so if we are able to go to that place of quiet and begin taking care of the body, the mind, and then the soul will just keep expanding within. And as it expands more and more and more, we find that joy that is the vital force that at the beginning, the presentation, it combines the air, and breathing, and it becomes a vital force in full force. We don't know how to breathe. We don't know how to breathe. Nobody ever mentions that the basic, most important physical thing that we can do is to breathe well. I mean, taking the time to and let go. And as we do so, then allow whatever needs to come, dark or light, because nothing about what I'm talking about is easy. It's not easy because the resistance that we offer, the I offers, are huge. And we, again, are impacted by that of all the people in the world that have not dealt with this. Even though we all want to go to that place of joy, even though we are desperate to go there. So that's all I mean, there is a lot more, but I can tell you, eating well, resting, visiting nature, just the tree, just a little plant in your house can do it. Serve as the instrument that brings you to that space. And let that place grow. It grows just like again, a beautiful plant that you water. We have gone through the processes that we have gone through because we had to. But I think coming to a place where we are tonight, together, all of us, you and me and everything that is around us, there is a divinity in that. And we have to honor it and take, the peace that may have gone into each one of you from all those things that you have heard and nurture. You go and nurture that. Because it's not me, Aura. It's not my words. It's the instrument. It's the essence that allows us to be here tonight.
I think as I was listening, you said in your early childhood, you would ask the same question every night, same question, and you sort of open that communication to the spiritual. Do you still need to do that? Do you need to ask the question yourself, or do you receive revelations just out of the blue?
I can tell you that in the last months, I will say, after I was able to, not was able, because this is not about trying to, it's just what happens. When I saw responsibility into responsibility, and I knew that is the main responsibility that we have in this existence at this time or any time in the human experience. After that time, there are times of quiet. I am not asking questions. No, I am being. I have a very quiet life with my husband. I love, as I mentioned to you earlier, nature. My house I'm so blessed. I'm surrounded by nature. And I do play my drum, as part of my contemplation in the morning. I ring I bring my little I go to that space. I am in that space. Sometimes the mind wants to play tricks. Not too long ago, I was driving back home, and suddenly my heart began beating really, really hard. And I thought, what's going on? It was so strong that I had to stop. So, oh my gosh, I can get into an accident. I found my place, stopped, and I went into it. What is it? And you know what came out? The fear that I lived in, again, for 3 decades, when I lived with my parents, from my childhood to my young adulthood. That fear of going home and not knowing what to expect negatively, because there was always something negative. But in this case, I saw it, I said, okay, emotion, energy, emotion, movement of energy. So I allowed the energy to pass through, and I talked to it myself, to whoever it is that you talk to when you talk in circumstances like this. And I said, okay, I hear the memory. Yeah, it's real. I mean, it happened, but I am not. That's not where I am today. Thank you, but you can go by. I have no resentment, and never had any resentment for my parents, for any that thing that happened. They have been blessings. My parent, my father, his violence, my best teacher. It allowed me to go to a place where I survived, not letting my heart to be affected. My heart remained pure. And that took courage. And so there, with all the different other aspects. But that courage comes from that innermost conversation. Now, where that to begin with came from, I think that we all come to this physical plane with different tools to use, to be the instrument. To be the instrument of essence. I happen to have these codes. And that's what I've been laboring. I want to continue laboring. That's the reason I am presenting tonight. I have written my book. It came out during the pandemic. And one of those things, I have not really known how to go about, because there is a knowing inside that tells me that it's not about the promotion of the book. There is something more essential than that. And tonight, I think, again, thank you, all, Ernie, everybody, Mark, Clemencia, Auristela, my friends, Dick, Gina, my husband. Thank you for being that
Before
instrument.
you go, I want to say something.
Yes.
Hi, Aura. This is
Clemencia.
Clemencia, of course, for everybody.
Yes.
I know Aura since I was like 8 years old. And I read the book in 2 ways, in Spanish and in English. And I understood today exactly what the message was for. Two things I enjoyed tonight. The guy who is with the iPad, he shows us the background that it was a beautiful beauty nature there, a beautiful sunset. I don't know who's the name of the guy, but I like what you show us. And I enjoyed this. And I think you forgot something very important that I learned from you since I met you.
Thank
And
you.
it is like a one word that is like everything I feel in this moment, and it's love. It's what I feel, and it's I remember when I met you and it was little. I found something in you, like I still feeling the same way. I haven't seen you in a while, and thank you everybody for being here. But the message was so clear and beautiful and better than in words than in the book. So thank you, Aura. I wanted to ask some questions, but I think everybody has to go. It's a little late. And enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Ernie. And I love you, Aura.
Thank you, Clemencia. I would like to ask you a question if you have it. I mean, this is the space again. This is it.
No,
Yeah,
we absolutely have time if you have more questions.
I think that Mark asked a question, and it was for me since the last revelation that you have, are you aware to feeling something different, to receive another one? Because this is endless. The spirit is endless. And it's not, it's like you said, we are just being, just feel. So did you receive another, like a real revelation that is not in the book?
Outside, I mean, you get little insights as you breathe, as you open up your eyes, and you see the world and you see the beauty on it, or you see the darkness on it. I believe and I feel, and it's bringing tears into my eyes, that tonight is a night of alchemy. Alchemy is always going on in the same way that mysticism is always going on. But the unload for this time, when the world, all of us together, are experiencing the dark night of the soul. I think that the last two revelations really give us the content. They are the instrument, but also the essence of what we have to work with. One is coming to the understanding in our soul, just going there and saying, yes, I know what you are talking. I know what you are. We are oneness. And we are oneness, all of the human species, all of the other species, and everything. I mean, everything is together. Okay, there's the oneness of it all. We have to know that in here, feel it, live it every day. That's a powerful learning. Okay. And then the second one about the time has come for everyone to be divine. Now, to be divine, that you send us back, we correlates that to be with the to do, which is what is also contained within the dark night of the soul that we're living. Because we have been so focused on the duality that we perceive, that is not real, and we have this the material world, and we have to fix it. And so we fix not only the material world, but let's just go and fix everybody else. It's not about that. But that is so ingrained into this being that it's not an easy task to undo it. That's the reason I say, learn Reiki, eat well. I mean, really well, like fruits and vegetables, drink water, okay? And exercise and love nature and all of those things. And do it in a little bit larger and larger portions. Again, if it is important, you are going to give it the time. But you have to train the mind, okay? Calm down. You have been very helpful. Love you. Allow me to be. And expand more and more and more that space. So I think that the last two revelations really, for the time that we are living in our human process, I think that they are the most critical thing that there is. They are not saying anything new. None of this is new. Because again, the wisdom is eternal. And what is being pronounced is that eternity. The human civilizations are, as I saw in the dream, that the dream with the bowl. The word escapes my mind. In the visionary dream, those civilizations have this truth. This is what we have lived over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, but now we have come to such place of realization in the material world that again we have all this technology. We have a web out there that is capturing everything. All of this. We can find any of this in anything that has been said. You can find it on Google. You do a Google and you will find all kinds of stuff about what I have said. But it's not about that. What we're talking about in here is, again, about activating this essence, this instrument to be. For the moment. What is that this moment is calling? How is it that we are going to relate to the material world in a different way? How is it that, and we are in a dangerous time. Again, we have to do this work. We have to do this work because we can go into that next phase where we get so enamored, continue, to the next level of being enamored with the technologies, information technologies. And we don't grab our power of discernment, like asking spirit, tell me the truth. I don't care how painful, tell me the truth. We have to ask the source. We can ask Google. We cannot give that to artificial intelligence. It is about here and now, and it involves all of us. Thank you, Clemencia.
Are there any other questions? Now, I was thinking throughout the presentation that there was a rather large, it's called A Course in Miracles, and it was extensive. But they distilled it down to the fact there are only two real energies, fear and love. And if you enshrine yourself in love, then fear cannot exist. So I think that's a similar revelation that we get from many other authors and subjects and things.
Absolutely,
So-
absolutely. And again, we are all, instruments, and we are not saying anything new. Yet we are very old as civilizations goes, and we still keep doing the same things. And there is a lot of pain in the heart. And pain will not allow love, essence, God, spirit to be. It's just the way it works. And we are right in the midst of it. It's a beautiful responsibility that we have. I mean, the responsibility is asking us to be, as they say, many people have said it, to be the observers and the observed. That is the difficulty that we are facing. And it's not a light difficulty. But the resources are there, absolutely and completely and totally, for all of us. And we might be able to grab it from this point, and another one from that point, another one from that point, another one hearing the words of such presenter, such a person, like speaker. You might hear it from there. It might come from anywhere, or it might just come from within. The quieter you get, that is the real answer. Because the words that you hear from me tonight, will bring you to your own space because there is a remnant of that there. It might be obstructed, but it is there. And what form, what kind of emotion? Love encompasses everything. But what kind of emotion is that stuck, that is stuck there, that doesn't allow the love to flow, the harmony to flow, And so we each have to go to our little boxes. It's like going on a train, and each one has their own space. And, you nurture that space or not. And that defines your human experience. And as a collective, it continues defining the world, the human world.
Okay, very well. Aura, I want to thank you
Yes.
very much. It was a wonderful presentation. You presented it beautifully. And I look forward to reading the book. Well, it was on such short notice, I didn't have time to read it before the interview. So I look
know
forward
it
to reading it.
was yes, right.
So,
short notice for all of us.
yeah. So,
about the book, I would like to say that I am in the process of putting it out in Spanish. I know Clemencia was able to read a manuscript that has gone through some phases, and so there will be a book in Spanish sometime in the very near future. I think that this one, for now, that I feel that with this presentation, it has come out into the world. I mean, it has been there, and people have read it, and I have my website, all of those things, www.auracamacho-maas.com. That is my website. You can go and visit. But I feel that it's like, again, I feel it is out now. The book, the content of all of this is now out. I have made presentations before, but I have never felt the way I have felt tonight as an instrument and essence. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be in love, in harmony with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aura. We appreciate it greatly. And to other listeners, next week on Tuesday, at 7 p.m., we will have another interview, which would be interesting. It's just important, I think, that we put some time aside to have a discussion like this, to listen to a person like Aura, sort of uplifts us and keep us going in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Love
Good
and
night.
light.
Thank you.
Healing. Yes.
Healing heart.